To action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetabissmiley.show.com. That's thetabissmiley.show.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, two conversations. Up first.
Games, changes, and fears. When will they go from here? When will they stop? I believe that fate has brought us here, and we should be together, babe. But we're not. I play it off, but I'm dreaming of you. And I'll keep my cool, but I'm feeling. I try to say goodbye and I choke. I try to walk away and I stumble. Though I try to hide it, it's clear. My world crumbles when you are not there.
Believe it or not, Macy Gray is celebrating 25 years since the release of that classic and seminal album On How Life Is, and she has a new tour. She's also starring in a new animated film called Sneaks alongside an all-star cast that includes Martin Lawrence, Anthony Mackie, and Lawrence Fishburne. We'll talk to Macy Gray and celebrate On How Life Is. Love that track, I Try. We'll do that on the top side of Hour 2. On the B side of Hour 2, the co-director and writer of Sneaks, Rob Edwards, joins us live in studio. It turns out that Rob Edwards was also in the writer's room on a little network show on Fox called In Living Color.
You know what I'm saying?
The moon float like a balloon. You see, it's never too late and it's never too soon. Take it from me, it's alright to be.
And today in our third hour, we will celebrate the 35th anniversary. 35 years. This show is making me feel old today. 25 years since I tried for Macy Gray. 35 years since In Living Color. We'll celebrate In Living Color in our third hour with a potpourri of talent, including Damon Wayans, Marlon Wayans, David Allen Greer, Tommy Davidson, Steve Park, Kelly Cofield Park, and the aforementioned Rob Edwards. It's In Living Color today in our third hour. But let's commence today's show talking politics and economics, the impact of Trump 2.0 on the macro and micro level with world-renowned UT Austin professor and best-selling author James K. Galbraith. Professor Galbraith, how are you, sir?
I think I'm doing all right, all things considered.
Yeah, I feel the same way. All things considered, I say all the time, if I complained, I'd be an ingrate, and that is true. But all things considered, these days, we're holding on and pressing forward. Let me just start. I want to just set this up, Professor. Give me a chance here. I want to start our conversation today with the news of yesterday and the news of today. We've been talking on this program for months now about all kinds of individuals and institutions bending the knee. Law firms bending the knee, colleges and universities bending the knee, individuals bending the knee, sometimes Democrats bending the knee, all kinds of folks bending the knee in Trump 2.0. And yesterday, it all went down. Harvard told the administration to take a hike. We will not acquiesce to the demands of the Trump administration. And Trump responded immediately, saying that they will freeze $2 billion. After Harvard refuses their demands, $2 billion they will freeze, plus another $60 million contract. That's a whole lot of money to be frozen. But Harvard said we ain't having it. And so they are one of the rare institutions at this moment to tell the administration to kick rocks. So when they told the administration they will not acquiesce, the administration has announced now that they are threatening Harvard's tax-exempt status. That's in the New York Times. So now their tax-exempt status is being threatened at Harvard University. And there is news today that Joe Biden has decided to return to the national stage. A major speech today in Chicago, I believe. Conference of advocates, counselors, and representatives for the disabled national organization. Meeting today in Chicago. The 82-year-old Democrat, largely quiet since he left the White House, is returning to the national stage with a major speech about how the Trump administration and their agenda is threatening the health of Social Security. Say nothing of the way that all these moves by Donald Trump is impacting our economy on the macro and micro level. Going to be a great hour with James K. Galbraith when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Before the fire, Altadena was a real-life Wakanda. A thriving black oasis just 15 miles from downtown Los Angeles. 80% black residents were homeowners, building intergenerational wealth against the odds. It was a hub of black-owned businesses, churches, and cultural institutions. It stood as a symbol of black resilience and economic independence. Then, in a matter of hours, it was gone. The fire tore through homes, swallowed businesses, and left behind a painful void. But was it just an unstoppable act of nature, or was negligence involved? Did officials ignore early warning signs? Were the response efforts delayed or insufficient? What role, if any, did corporate or government failures play? Survivors are demanding answers. Don't miss our KBLA Talk 1580 Town Hall. The Eden Altadena Fire, 100 days and counting. On Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center, 1081 North Fair Oaks in Pasadena. Join Dominic DePrima, Nee Cordelai Corte, James Farr, Tavis Smiley, and a panel of survivors survivors, community leaders, and experts as we commemorate day 100 since the wildfires flared up, and we discuss where we go from here. It's KBLA's Eden Altadena Fire, 100 Days and Counting Town Hall, Wednesday, April 16th, 4 to 6 p.m. at the Robinson Park Recreation Center in Pasadena. Light refreshments to follow. Admission is free, but sign-up is required at our KBLA1580.com website. The first 100 attendees will receive a complimentary air purifier. This is a community call to action brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and Quinn Emanuel Trial Lawyers. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and UT Austin professor, the legendary economist, world-renowned James K. Galbraith, who we're honored to have on this program. Professor Galbraith, you are at a major university, as I just mentioned, UT Austin, but this is a real showdown between the White House and the nation's wealthiest university, Harvard. What say you, sir?
Well, this is an epic showdown. There's no doubt about it. And I think it's worth pointing out that Harvard is by no means a radical institution. It's the pillar of the American establishment and has been for several centuries. So we're looking here at a set of demands that were presented that were clearly intended to humiliate the institution, in which the institution really had no choice but to refuse. And now we shall see how this plays out. It's a contest between, let's just say, a very strongly established center of power and influence in this administration.
Yep. So let me pick up on your word, humiliate. What's your read of the way that this administration has, in fact, gone about humiliating colleges and universities all across this country?
Well, it has already shown its power with respect to, for example, Columbia, which caved largely to its demands, and then it upped the ante against Harvard. So we're seeing here something I have not seen in a lifetime of observing American politics, which is an administration that is taking a wrecking ball to established institutions and established centers of authority in the country. And as I say, this is by no, they may describe them as left wing, but this is by no means the case. Yeah. Just as the attack on Social Security is not an attack on a left wing institution, but on a longstanding pillar of American life.
Yeah, I promise we'll get to Social Security in this hour. I'm glad I've got you for the hour. Again, in case you just tuned in, Joe Biden giving a major speech today in Chicago about Social Security. So he's making his re-entrance on the national stage. I don't know that I've thought much about this in this regard. I talk about the politics every day, Professor Galbraith, of these moves by the Trump administration. But what kind of impact do you think this ultimately has, that is to say, Trump humiliating and embarrassing institutions of higher learning? What's that have on the profession? What impact that has on higher education as we know it?
Well, I think it very much remains to be seen. We're at the opening stage of a battle, and it will be a very clear lesson to institutions all across the country as to how this turns out. My own view is that Harvard had no choice but to take the steps that it has taken so far, to send the letter back that it sent. Mm-hmm. And this is a wake-up call for all American institutions, that essentially nothing is safe and nothing is sacred. And that, I think, is what the administration is intending to, the message they were intending to send. Mm-hmm. And so they're really setting up a confrontation, in which they may prevail or they may not. We'll have to see. I think that's an open question at this point.
Yep. When you said earlier that Harvard had no choice but to respond as they did, unpack your particular view of that.
There would be nothing much left of the moral and academic authority of the institution if it had capitulated to the extreme demands that were in the letter. And that was the point. Mm-hmm. That was the point of the letter, was to say you must capitulate and give up all of your independent authority, and they saw that clearly.
Yeah. Let me ask you whether or not, Nick, again, I'm glad I've got you for the hour. There's so much to get to, including your new book, Entropy Economics, The Living Basis of Value and Production. Again, glad I have this world-renowned economist for the first hour of this program today. Let me just ask you a couple more broad questions here. We'll narrow it as we move through this hour. I'm thinking every day about whether or not the persons who voted for Donald Trump expected all of this. I mean, they're hitting institutions, left and right, up and down. I mean, right side, down side. I mean, everybody's getting hit by this administration, and I'm wondering, again, I can't put you in the minds of those who voted, but I'm just asking a broad question whether or not this is what people expected when we returned Donald Trump to the White House.
Well, there was a lot of frustration with the way things were going under the previous administration, as well as with the leadership of the administration, which was, hardly inspiring in any sense. But I think it's pretty clear that the administration, once in power, the Trump administration, is taking steps which go far beyond what its voting base expected, and which will undercut the living standards of its voting base, against a promise of some kind of revival of American industry and the American working class, which they are not in a position to deliver. They've taken no steps that would actually create the conditions for the kind of industrial revival that they're promising, except putting tariffs, which are going to undercut the flow of goods into the United States, on which which have provided a strong basis of the general living standard of the country. So we're going to see, this is a very big shock, and it will begin to hit just exactly where Trump's voting base was, and partly because of trade retaliation from the Chinese, but also because as goods simply stop coming in, you're going to see shortages, and you're going to see price increases, and you're going to see problems with the supply chain, which people in this country basically rely on it for all kinds of daily goods. So this is going to be really quite a surprise. I don't know exactly why they believe it's a good idea to do these things, but that is the steps that they're taking, and the consequences are going to be very serious, it seems to me.
I hear all those points, and I promise I'll put a pin in it for the moment. We'll get to all of them. His point about Trump's policies ultimately undercutting the living standards of his base, the tariffs and the price increases and the supply chain. I heard all that. I promise we'll get to it in just a second here. One final question, I think, about the Harvard thing, and then we'll move forward here, Professor Galbraith. I thought about this last night, and I wonder if the primary reason that Harvard responded the way they did, saying that we will not bend the knee, go ahead and freeze $2 billion in government aid, go ahead and cancel the $60 million contract. I was thinking last night, one of the primary reasons perhaps that Harvard did this is because they could. Because they could. This is, as I said earlier, a showdown between the White House and the nation's wealthiest university. I mean, Harvard's endowment is like, in the billions. That's the endowment. And so there are a lot of institutions that have bent the knee because they felt like they had no other choice. I'm not so sure I buy that argument. But again, institutions, individuals have felt they had no choice. They had to go along to get along, because if their government contracts were canceled, it might be the wrecking of their institution, the wrecking of their law firm. Again, I'm not so sure I buy that, Professor Galbraith. But there are those who have, essentially made that argument that we're doing this for the good of our institution. We're doing this for our survival. Harvard may be the only institution that could withstand a $2 billion cut, the cancellation of a $60 million contract, and still survive. Put another way, Harvard's alumni, if they chose to do so, and may very well choose to do so. I can't imagine in the coming days, I'm not the president of Harvard, but if I were, I'd be sending a letter out right now, if they already haven't, reminding all their wealthy alumni what the Trump administration just did to them. Certainly those liberal alumni, those wealthy, progressive alumni. I'd be reminding them what the president and his administration just did to us, and we got to make up this shortfall somehow. And so they go on another fundraising binge, and the money starts rolling in. Every institution can't do that. That's a long way of asking whether or not Harvard, in part, did this, not just because they didn't want to respond in the way that the Trump administration wanted them to the demands that were being made, but because financially they can take the hit, Professor.
Oh, I think that's entirely right. I mean, let's first of all remember, as far as I read the news, the $2 billion is a multi-year commitment.
Correct.
And Harvard has ample cash reserves as well as a vast endowment. So ultimately, you could see the university detaching itself from large measures of federal support and moving along perfectly well. It's, as you say, an extremely wealthy and autonomous institution. I believe that's also true of other institutions that didn't react with the same degree of spine and firmness that Harvard has taken on this first measure. I think that Columbia could have taken a tougher stand if it had chosen to, but it didn't.
I think you're right.
So we saw an escalation with respect to Harvard, which was intended, I think, to generate a refusal.
Well, I think part of what brought that on was the way that they saw Columbia bend the knee. I mean, if you're the Trump people and you go after Columbia, and to Professor Galbraith's point, he's absolutely right. Columbia could have been much more robust in its response to the White House. They did not. They just rolled over. And that empowers the administration to go after other institutions like Harvard. Clearly, Harvard is wealthier than Columbia, so you start with Columbia, you make an example out of them, and then you go after Harvard. And so I agree with the professor that Columbia could have and perhaps should have done a great deal more. That's their decision. But again, now Trump is threatening Harvard's tax exempt status. We will see where that takes us. But for the moment, there is a showdown again between the White House and the nation's wealthiest institution, Harvard, and we will see how.
It points up a problem, which is that a lot of universities have gotten themselves in deep with the federal government. The federal government has leverage over them, and this is not necessarily a healthy situation. This is one which puts them at the mercy of political pressures, which, generally speaking, the federal government hasn't exercised, but it's doing so now.
I hadn't thought about it in that way. Let me just probe that one more second here. What is the danger long term of institutions coming to rely so much on federal funding?
Well, then they become really, I feel, obliged to comply with whatever policies and whatever ideological direction the federal government wants them to take. And it tends to bias the direction of research, particularly in things like the social sciences, in ways in which the influences of the federal government set. And that reduces the amount of independence, the amount of the diversity of views. I found it amusing, by the way, that the administration was putting viewpoint diversity as one of the things it wants, because I would like to see a mainstream economics department that has viewpoint diversity. A business school. This basically is let's just say, very rare in modern American higher education. And why is that? Is because they're falling in line with an established set of doctrines. One which, by the way, is the doctrine that this little book that you mentioned tries to challenge. So we're right in the let's say in the slipstream of those issues.
I promise we'll get to that book and the other issues that you raised a moment ago. I'll get to the economic piece here in just a second. I wanted to start with the political and get that out of the way, since it is the news of the day. What Harvard and the White House are engaged in, this sort of mano tete-a-tete. We will see again how this works out in the coming days. You mentioned Social Security, as did I earlier, and I want to just take your temperature on this, and then we'll move in the back half of this conversation to talking about the book and the way that Trump is moving ultimately to undercut the living standards of his base. Others on this program have opined in days past that if there is one area where this administration may trip themselves up, it is the economy. If they tank this economy in the ways that Professor Galbraith has already intimated that they are, if they keep on the path they're on right now, that may be Trump's undoing. And the irony of that is, as I've said before, that he was elected because people thought he was better on the economy. Turns out that he's tanking the economy, indeed, for his own base. We'll get to that in a moment, I promise. But to Social Security, Joe Biden is returning today to the national stage in Chicago with a speech, I believe, this evening at the National Conference of Advocates, Counselors, and Representatives for the Disabled in Chicago. And he's giving a major address tonight about the ways in which the Trump administration's agenda is threatening the health of Social Security. Talk to me, Professor Galbraith, about Social Security and Joe Biden having his say on it this evening.
Well, if you take Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, veterans benefits, and the range of things that the federal government provides by the way of income support, health support to the population, it's hugely significant. And these are the forces that have largely reduced poverty, especially amongst the elderly, over the last 50 years. And they function by and large very efficiently. And if you undermine the administration of those programs and make them dysfunctional, they're setting them up to be turned over to essentially to private enterprise, to private insurance, which will greatly increase the cost, reduce the coverage, and make the lives of America's elderly that much more difficult. It's, again, very hard to see what the purpose of doing this actually might be. But there seems to be a kind of very radical ideology that if they break down the government, break down the regulations, break down the insurance programs, break down the regulatory, the antitrust and the other regulatory agencies, that somehow a vibrant private economy will spring up, such as has never existed, didn't even exist back in the 19th century, essentially, but certainly hasn't existed since the early 20th. And that somehow will make it for a better world. I don't think so. I think this is an agenda which exists in the minds of some very wealthy people who have really very extreme notions about how an economy should be organized, and no clear sense about how to support the living standards of the population as a whole.
Yeah, most politicians are smart enough to not mess with Social Security. That's one of those third or fourth rails you do not want to touch unless you get electrocuted politically. And yet that has not stopped the Trump administration from making moves that Joe Biden believes and others believe are threatening the health and the stability of Social Security. I think bipartisan leaders have long agreed that Americans who retire after paying into SSI deserve their whole check. They deserve the support and the services that they've paid into. But we will see again what President Biden has to say tonight. Former President Biden has to say tonight about this in Chicago, and perhaps tap into a brief conversation about it tomorrow in the first hour of this program. But in this hour of the program, when we come forward, we'll continue with Professor James K. Galbraith talking about his new book and the ways in which the Trump administration and their economic agenda is impacting us on macro and micro levels. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
Progressive knows owning a home can be hard, but not always. Like when you're relaxing on your patio, enjoying a nice, quiet evening. So quiet. Except for the sound of the neighbor's party. Which you said you'd go to if you weren't busy. And your quiet night on the patio, that's not exactly busy, is it? Maybe you should just stay inside. At least Progressive's Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare rates, so shopping for insurance is the easiest part of owning a home. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Sean Diddy Combs was arraigned yesterday in Manhattan, New York on new charges of sex trafficking and engaging in prostitution. He pleaded not guilty to previous charges, and his federal trial is set to start May 5th. Former President Biden will make his first public appearance since leaving the White House, speaking at the Advocates, Counselors, and Representatives for the Disabled Conference in Chicago this evening. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has officially recognized the Gulf of Mexico. The governor signed 2 bills into law, one to change the state laws to reflect the new name, and another to update state agencies and schools' materials accordingly. And Texas rapper Tay McIntyre, known as Tay K, was found guilty of murder but not capital murder for the 2017 shooting of a photographer. He was previously convicted of a home invasion near Dallas. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. continue their dream of education, or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
USC forward Kiki Iriefin was the fourth player selected Monday night in the WNBA draft. Iriefin was chosen by the Washington Mystics. The LA Sparks used their first-round pick on Alabama forward Sarah Ashley Barker. The number 77 jersey worn by Lakers star Luka Doncic is the top-selling jersey in the NBA. Doncic is the first player other than LeBron and Steph Curry to lead the NBA in jersey sales since 2013. Doncic, a native of Slovenia, is also the first international player to lead the NBA in jersey sales. For some reason, Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders has declined an invitation to attend the NFL draft, scheduled for April 24th in Green Bay. Sanders is projected to be the second quarterback selected. At least 17 players expected to be first-round picks have agreed to attend the draft. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Every day, a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, and it's almost time to celebrate KBLA's 4th anniversary, coming up Juneteenth 2025. We'll be marking the achievement with 4 key community events, including a special symposium, luncheon, and brain trust hosted by me entitled The State of Black Women in Los Angeles. Keep it locked here for details on how to join us for this groundbreaking symposium examining the unique challenges, triumphs, and contributions of Black women in Los Angeles in the areas of education, healthcare, community leadership, cultural and political contributions. This public convocation will provide a critical forum to address the specific social, economic, and political realities facing Black women in LA today. We'll go live with a radio broadcast and YouTube live stream, a public discussion, and a private dialogue with some of LA's most impactful women. It's an affirmation of Black women standing at the intersection of race and gender in times of adversity while demonstrating remarkable resilience and leadership. We will listen and we will speak out and be heard, all in service of finding opportunities and solutions. Please plan to join us in celebrating our 4th anniversary by amplifying the voices of Black women. For more on our symposium and 4 events celebrating 4 years on the air, simply stay tuned or keep an eye on KBLA1580.com and help make this Juneteenth more jubilant with all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
It does indeed, with the world-renowned economist and UT Austin Professor James K. Galbraith. We are honored to have on this program in our first hour. So I want to work my way into the economic conversation, both at the macro level and the micro level, and the impact ultimately of the way that Donald Trump is moving, the impact it's going to have on poor people, the impact it will have on people of color, the impact it will have on his base if he continues to move in this direction. So let me frame it this way, and I'll cut Professor Galbraith loose once I do this. He has argued, Professor Galbraith, that is, has argued that there are 8 distinct forces at work in Donald Trump's economics. Listen in good here. 8 distinct forces at work in Trump's economics. They are: 1, the targeted destruction of specific regulatory agencies. B, random disruptions of the federal civil service. 3, old-fashioned Reaganism. 4, tariffs. 5, migration. 6, energy. 7, the military. And 8, the general effect of rash and unpredictable policymaking, otherwise called uncertainty and chaos. Those are the 8 major areas. Distinct forces at work in Trump's economics. All of that taken together is ultimately going to have an impact on the economy, on people of color, on the poor. And as I said, specifically, it's going to impact Donald Trump's base. And you heard Professor Galbraith say earlier in this program, not just impact the base, but undermine their living standards. Professor Galbraith, I set it up as best as I could, sir. Take it away.
Well, it's certainly going to be highly disruptive. The idea the administration has evidently is that disruption is a good thing because it will be quickly reorganized into a new productive forces, that industries that went abroad are going to come scurrying back to reestablish themselves in America, provide the working class jobs that existed 60, 70 years ago. And the problem they have is that it isn't very likely to happen. I think the big shock of the 8 things you mentioned, by far the biggest shock in the last week or two has been the imposition and then temporary removal of these very extreme tariffs. And you already see that the supply chain coming from Asia, particularly from China, is being disrupted. And the result of that is going to be in the first instance shortages, and the question is, what do you do about that? Is it going to be, are factories going to magically reappear in order to employ people to produce the goods that we're not going to be able to buy, that the Asian economies won't find it profitable to ship to us? And the answer to that is certainly not immediately, and maybe not for a long time. And why would they do it anyway if unemployment's rising and inflation's rising and interest rates are high and might be rising, and the administration's policies might be taken off or might be exaggerated? There's no clear plan here. The Financial Times just today had an article basically saying, well, China's going to win this war, and the reason it's going to win this war is that it has a history of doing some effective planning. Well, this is just exactly what's not happening in the United States. And I'm not entirely against some restructuring of the world economy, some rebalancing of the world economy. But in order to do that, you need to have all the pieces need to be in place. This is not something that will self-organize. And that's where, if there is really a vision, a constructive vision behind what the Trump administration is doing, that's where it falls down. They're basically not recognizing how fragile it is, the existing system is, and how difficult it would be to construct one that was nearly as adequate to support the living standards of Americans.
So as you're talking, I'm having nightmares. I'm having flashbacks. Indeed, I had flashbacks last night reading your works and preparing for this conversation today. Had flashbacks given your list of 8 things that I mentioned a moment ago, and you're talking a moment ago about the supply chain. My mind went back to Trump 1.0. As we all recall, Donald Trump was president when COVID broke out. And we all recall what happened during the pandemic that ensued. The supply chain didn't hold up, and we couldn't find all kinds of things at grocery stores. And people were, buying more than one item. And those items were running out. We all recall the price increases, and in a very real way, we're still feeling the price increases. You bought an airline ticket lately? We're still feeling the price increases, born of the money that companies lost during the pandemic that they're still trying to make up for. Say nothing of the tariffs and the trade retaliation. I just want to remind the audience of what that pandemic moment was like. Everybody remembers that, of course. But how likely is it that we'll return to those dark days where the supply chain just won't be there? We'll see greater price increases, et cetera, Professor Galbraith?
Well, I think there's some evidence that it's already happening. There was an article in the South China Morning Post a couple of days ago saying that Chinese shippers were canceling shipments, even some that had already left port, and trying to reroute others. Why? Because they can't make a profit with a 150, 145% tariff that's going to be imposed when they arrive. And so we should see the start of this within a few weeks. And again, this would take much, much longer than that, and a much more concerted and consistent policy to replace the shipments that are not coming in. So, then you have exactly the same phenomenon that you had in the pandemic. You have in the first place, you have some shortages and you have queues. And then if the policy comes off because it's too painful, then you have a flood of goods coming in, and the backup in the ports becomes what it was, and the middle stages of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And that took, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years to sort out completely and run smoothly again. But this administration seems to be thinking they should get rid of it altogether and completely reorient the supply chain for American goods, for goods coming to American consumers. And that's going to be a far greater challenge than I think they imagined, because I don't think they thought about it.
Yeah.
I don't think they really appreciate what it takes to rebuild the infrastructure to bring back all kinds of basic industries and the feeders for pharmaceuticals and metals and fabricated products of all kinds. This is not an easy process.
Yep. I want to ask in a moment here when his base is going to feel this in terms of their living standards being undermined. To quote you from earlier in this conversation, when's that going to happen? When will they feel that? Because I think once his base feels that, certainly in these red states, that may change this conversation, change the game altogether. Before I get to that question, though, help me understand. Sure, go ahead.
It could happen quite soon, but I'm not sure it matters to this administration. One has to remember this is President Trump's second term, and presumably, though he's hinting at
exactly, he says what he says exactly.
Again, so why would he care exactly?
Yeah.
Even if the Democrats come back in the midterms, they still face Trump in the White House, so he can stay the course on this policy through a 4-year term, and then we'll see what happens after that. But within 4 years, an enormous amount of disruption can be done, and it would be very hard to reverse.
I take your comment to your comment right now. I take that to mean that Donald Trump would continue, to your mind, to advance an agenda that is hurting the base that elected him, and he wouldn't care about that?
I don't know that he would. I think that remains to be seen. But the point is, if he's convinced that he's on the right path and that the pain, whoever feels it, is worth it, and I think he's already said that, then I don't know why he would just cave on his policies in the short run unless he comes under enormous pressure from people who are very close to him. And now, obviously, has already happened to some degree. The automakers and the bond markets and so forth have been heard from, and some parts of the policy have been deferred or reversed, and we'll see what happens. But if he's really determined to set a course and stick with it, then from his point of view, he's got his 3.5 years to go. Why would he change? It will be the next president's problem to figure out what to do next.
So we've already mentioned the distinct 8 forces that are at work in Trump's economics, as Professor James K. Galbraith sees it. When we come forward in our conversation with him, I do want to ask him, no naivete here, but there were many fellow citizens who obviously thought that Donald Trump was going to be better on the economy. That's not what you hear Professor Galbraith saying to us. He's not doing well at all when it comes to the economy at the micro level or the macro level. What I want to understand is what's the end game for him? What is the point? What is the purpose of the way that he's moving on the economy? What's it all about? I want to just get a better understanding of that from Professor Galbraith when we come forward, and then I want him to take us inside his new book, Entropy Economics. I love that word, ENTROPY, Entropy Economics, the living basis of value and production. We'll do that as well when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
This is an ad by BetterHelp. Think about your mentors and idols, the people who inspire you the most. While it may look like they have all the answers, they don't. But they do know when to ask questions and seek the support they need. In a world that glorifies hyper-independence, it's easy to forget that we're all better with a support system. Therapy is a great way to find a consistent source of support in your life, so you can break free from the outdated belief that seeking help is a sign of weakness. BetterHelp has experienced therapists ready to help you with challenges ranging from anxiety and depression to relationships and stress. It's convenient, too. You can join a session with the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. You can even send your therapist a message anytime something comes up. Build your support system with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/ABC Radio today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/ABC Radio.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and the world-renowned economist and UT Austin professor James K. Galbraith are honored to have had on this program for this entire first hour. Another 10 minutes to go, so we have a bit more territory to cover. We just talked about those 8 distinct forces at work in Trump's economics, as you've laid out, Professor Galbraith. But to what end? What is the end game here? And as I said earlier, there are many Americans who voted for Donald Trump because they thought he'd be much better on the economy than Kamala Harris. I don't know if they're rethinking that or not. But what's the game plan here for Donald Trump? What's he trying to achieve with the way he's moving on the economy, micro and macro?
Well, I'll put it this way. I think what they're trying to do is to get to a position where they can assert the authority and power of the United States in the world. Military power, industrial power, financial power, diplomatic power. And I think what they're going to discover is they don't have the means to do that. The world is a fundamentally different place from the one in which, Donald Trump came of age, and that the capacity of the United States to assert its will against against the other great powers in the world is just not there nearly to the extent that they imagine. And ultimately, they will discover that, and they will discover that they don't have the means to create a new industrial behemoth that will dominate the world economy, or be, in fact, independent of the rest of the world economy. And the next president will have to deal with the consequences and come to grips with the realities. That's basically my view. Right. I don't think they can succeed in the vision that I believe they have, right, which is essentially the assertion of dominance.
Did they take no lesson from that Chinese EU smackdown on the tariffs, which led to them having to cave? Is there no lesson learned from that for them?
Well, the Chinese are standing very firm. The Chinese have a very strong base on which to stand. They have developed carefully over the last 40, 45 years, more, almost 50 years. And they're prepared to take whatever losses they need to take in order to maintain their position. They can't do otherwise, politically, internally, externally. So that's the rock on which this policy is hitting. and the consequences will be felt, as I say, largely by the American people, including by Trump's base. By farmers who want to sell soybeans and other grains and other agricultural products to China, and by consumers who have been relying on the Chinese supply chain for a great many things for many years.
Our remaining moments with Professor James K. Galbraith when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail, and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail, because freedom should be free. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Do you enjoy fatty foods, sweets, and alcohol? Who doesn't? Unfortunately, all those things put a lot of pressure on our liver. That's why pharmacist, best-selling author, and nutritional expert Sherry Torkos recommends Active Liver from New Nordic.
The liver is an incredible organ. It works nonstop to process toxins and chemicals from our food and drinks, medications we take, and even environmental exposures. As a health expert, I'm often asked how to support the liver's natural detoxification process and offset the effects of fatty foods, sugar, and alcohol. I recommend Active Liver by New Nordic. This gentle plant-based supplement is an effective way to support your liver's vital functions as well as your energy and overall well-being.
With its powerful blend of turmeric, milk thistle, and globe artichoke extract, Active Liver is the perfect way to keep your liver healthy and you feeling your best. Active Liver is available in both a delicious gummy or tablet. You can find Active Liver in the vitamin aisle at your local CVS or online at Amazon or newnordicusa.com.
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
It's me, Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash. I see those dry elbows, baby. But don't worry, get moisturized right in the shower. So hydrated you can skip the lotion after.
Don't wanna see it dry no more. Skin so moisturized with body wash.
Look at you now, no more dry skin. Your skin gets the moisture it craves with
Olay Indulgent Moisture Body Wash.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Professor James K. Galbraith. We've already talked in this hour about some of the themes inside your new book, Entropy Economics, the Living Basis of Value and Production. But these last couple minutes here, last few minutes, take me inside the text, Professor, and give me some of the takeaways for everyday people.
Well, the basic one is that economies are living systems, and they operate on the same principles as living creatures or as mechanical systems do. They require resources, high quality resources. They have to make investments in order to use those resources efficiently. And to do that, they have to have plans. And that's true of you and me. Our plans are encoded in our genes. It's true of anybody who's making a product for the market. They have to plan on a big living building with they need blueprints. And economies operate on the basis of regulations, laws, habits, customs, constitutions. And when you try to break those things down, which is what's happening now, you're going to get worse, generally speaking, worse and not better results. I'm not saying every regulation is a good regulation, but it is the efficient operation of regulations that makes markets possible, that makes smoothly functioning, high quality markets possible. It enables us to go about our business confident that we're not being cheated all the time, and that the products are as advertised, and that things are reasonably safe. We can have confidence in them. And without that, you're going to see lots of structures cracking and breaking. And that's the essence of the book. And it says that markets do not self-organize and become stable equilibrium, all this stuff that you get in a very basic economic textbook, supply and demand. It's time to replace all that with a simple vision that corresponds to the way the real world works. And by the way in which every other science, every other academic or scientific discipline has operated on the principles that is accepted for almost 2 centuries now. Yeah. Economics is kind of peculiar in that it still believes in ideas that were current in the 18th century.
Yeah. I've got 90 seconds left here. How do we go about fighting oligarchy? Bernie Sanders, AOC here in LA over the weekend, 36,000 people turned out for their biggest rally yet. How do we fight oligarchy in this moment?
I'm sorry, the stock market?
Oligarchy. How do we fight oligarchy in this moment?
Oh, well, this is the group that's running the country and has been for some respects for some time. And in order to have a stable society, one has to have a more broadly based democracy that isn't simply dominated by people with billions of dollars after their name, highly advertised net worths. And we see this very clearly in this administration, but it was also true in previous administrations. It's not a new thing. No, but it is something which we have to rebuild. Broad-based democracy will get you better decisions.
Known around the globe for his work in the field of economics, noted and legendary UT Austin professor James K. Galbraith has been our guest in this hour. How honored were we to have his insights. His book is called Entropy, Economics, the Living Basis of Value and Production. Professor Galbraith, sir, an honor to have had you on. Thank you for your time. All the best to you.
No, the honor's mine. Thank you very much indeed.
You're kind to say that. I deeply appreciate that. In our second hour, a conversation with Macy Gray. In our third hour, we're going to celebrate the 35th anniversary of In Living Color. As I said, this is one of those shows that makes you feel old. It's been 25 years since Macy Gray put out that classic album, that seminal album on how life is. So we'll talk to Macy Gray here in just a second. And then we'll celebrate In Living Color with an all-star cast of voices in our third hour today here on Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Sean Diddy Combs was arraigned yesterday in Manhattan, New York on new charges of sex trafficking and engaging in prostitution. He pleaded not guilty to previous charges, and his federal trial is set to start May 5th. Former President Biden will make his first